a bit stupid, actually. He hacked into the US Pentagon's most sensitive sites, he left some insulting messages, and he caused about $370,000 worth of damage to, they say, to their top secret systems. Now, Gary does have an interesting defense for doing this, which we're going to hear in a moment.
Using a home PC and only a modem, Gary McKinnon single-handedly broke into and shut down American military computers. On one occasion, he left a digital message attacking US politics. "Your foreign policy is akin to state terrorism," he wrote.
I was amazed at the lack of security.
Outside court, he said what he'd done was so easy, the judge was wrong to say he should be extradited and put on trial in the United States. The case mirrors the 1980s film War Games, where a young boy breaks into an American military computer system and causes havoc. That such a far-fetched plot has become reality 20 years later is staggering.
Well, Gary McKinnon's here now, but maybe not for much longer if he does end up going over to the States, because they're really on your tail. One has to say, I mean, with hindsight and all that, and I know one can get carried away on the computer keyboard, it was a spectacularly stupid thing to do, wasn't it, to go into the Pentagon's secret files?
Absolutely.
I mean, ridiculous, you know.
Yeah.
And even your staunchest defender, a guy called Mr. Ronson, who writes for The Guardian, John Ronson, I mean, he says that there's no way are you a threat to the American system or the American defense system, but you're just a computer nerd who went too far. That's what he says, and he's your best friend. Is that fair?
I mean, the reason I was where I was because I was looking for a thing called free energy technology, as well as evidence of UFOs.
UFOs?
Yeah.
You thought there was a file showing there's a cover-up in America on UFOs?
Definitely, yeah, and it wasn't just me, it's not just me that thinks that, obviously.
No.
More than half the people in America believe the government's covering up. What led me to it was a project called the Disclosure Project. They've got 400 expert witness testimonials, ranging from civilian air traffic controllers, up to military radar operators, right the way up to men and women responsible for Strategic Air Command, whether or not to launch nuclear missiles.
Yeah, but to go into the Pentagon secret files you're asking for trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, but I considered that if this technology exists and certain governments have it, when old age pensioners are dying because they can't pay their fuel bills, gas has gone up, has rocketed in the past few years, we should have this free energy technology around the world.
So you think that there's an alien technology which the American government is aware of, which gives us free energy, in effect?
Yeah, although I've found out since, because of this, I've met so many more serious people who have been very much more seriously involved in the field and for much longer, that it's not just a thing that the military may have, and certainly not just extraterrestrial. There are lots of different kinds of free energy.
All right.
Okay, well, all right, so you started off with a simple, if slightly eccentric interest in something, and it kind of got worse. What did you actually do at one point? Did you accidentally press a button or something? How did it go as far as it did? So you actually got into and destroyed one of their programs?
Well, no, this is complete balderdash. I found out that the damage claims, for it to be an extraditable offence and worth a year in prison, it has to be at least $5,000 worth of damage to the computers. My intention was to maintain a quiet presence, snooping around, finding what I could, not to damage or be vandalistic. And lo and behold, they say every computer I was on I caused $5,000 worth of damage to, in an effort just to make it an extraditable offence.
Okay. How easy was it to get into these sites?
Ridiculously easy. I used commercially available software and just scanned the networks for blank passwords.
In fact, that's as I mentioned before we started talking to you, that's the key plank of your defence. You're saying, look, I didn't break in anywhere. This stuff's wide open as it is.
Yeah.
And you said that when you were actually going through the files and peeking around, snooping around and stuff, there is a system you can press a button and see who else is also logging in to the Pentagon files. And you said they were all over the place. Europe, Australia, I mean, there were hundreds of people.
Surprising, considering the passwords are blank. Then it's no surprise that I wasn't the only person there.
So you feel that you are very unfairly being made an example of, a sort of a special target,
whipping boy.
if you like.
Well, completely, because unauthorised access in Britain is about 6 months in prison, and the National High-Tech Crime Unit, when they arrested me, told me it'd be 6 months community service. So to go from that to 60 years in a jail in a foreign country...
That must be terrifying.
It is terrifying.
It really
almost as terrifying as being on Richard and Judy.
yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it must be dreadful. So, why did you, if you wanted to just maintain a shadowy secret presence, why did you start leaving them messages?
Saying they were rubbish.
I was just amazed at the lack of security, and this is meant to be the world police. And to have no passwords, I actually set passwords once I got on there. They said, oh, you know, you've endangered national security, but there was no security there to begin with.
You mean you were bolting the doors behind you, as it were?
Yeah, basically, and leaving notes for the systems administrators.
You were actually saying, this system is wide open, guys, you need to fix it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you got political, which is really serious when you're in the Pentagon, effectively, you know, the virtual Pentagon. You were saying things like, one message was, you know, your foreign policy is equal to, what was it? What was the phrase you used? Terrorism.
I'm not going to discuss specific alleged credentials.
You've got a court case.
You've got a court case coming up.
Obviously. Okay.
But if you do go over, you know, the Americans do tend to use a blunt instrument to sort simple problems out. I mean, it seems fairly obvious to most of the observers of your case, and I'm just trying to summarise it here. I mentioned Ronson of the Guardian and others. You're just a guy who got in too deep, and you're no threat to American national security. But you know what they're like, and if you do get extradited there, and that's the way it's looking at the moment, I mean, you could get years in prison. I mean, this must be doing your head in.
It is doing my head in. I've got lots of support in America as well. And if it does go that far, I mean, hopefully it won't. You know, we want to try and get this extradition law changed. As one-sided, we can't extradite American civilians on the same basis because they're protected by
we heard all about that, about the NatWest 3, but it does seem in your case that you, lots of your supporters certainly say that it's not very complimentary to you, but it's far better than the opposite, that you are really just a bit of a geek, a bit of a computer nerd, who kind of very, very sort of cleverly, you say it was ridiculously easy, but you somehow managed to do something which you shouldn't have done, and which put you in a very vulnerable and very frightening position. Would you do it again?
Absolutely not. From what I know now, I've used perfectly legitimate research means to arrive at the same, follow the same path.
Well, good luck.
Well, good luck. It was clearly a bloody stupid thing to do, but it does not merit 60 years in a high security prison, and I hope the Americans see sense.
Me too.
Good luck.
Cheers.
Good luck. Cheers.
Maybe they just don't understand guys like you.
No, maybe not.
Why? They've got plenty of them like that in America.
Yeah, but they're frightened, aren't they? They're frightened. They're so frightened of terrorism, and you know, he's so clearly not in that.
America's running off the rails at the moment. It needs to really get itself back on track.
Good luck anyway, Gary.
Thanks,
I really mean it. Still to come, Eddie Izzard's here.